Darwin's theory of natural selection was proposed after Darwin visited the Galapagos Islands on the HMS Beagle, which was a ship at the time. His theory of natural selection consists of four main components. The first of these is overproduction, and this is when an organism produces more offspring than could possibly survive. And that's to ensure that at least some of the offspring will survive, and then they could reproduce. The second part to Darwin's theory is the idea of competition, and this is when two species or two organisms of the same species compete or fight over a limited resource. The third part to Darwin's theory of natural selection is this idea of survival of the fittest. And it's important to understand what it means to be fit in an evolutionary standpoint. And fitness refers to the ability of an organism to survive and reproduce fertile offspring. This is important because every organism's goal in life, essentially, is to reproduce and pass their traits on. So if you cannot do that, or you don't produce offspring that can do that, then you're not considered fit. So, along with this theory, organisms that are best adapted to their environment or have favorable traits, they will be the ones to survive and continue passing those traits on. And then over time, those adaptations or favorable traits will become more frequent or more common within a population. And so you'll see slow changes over a long period of time. And you won't see those changes in individual species. Rather, this entire process happens over populations. The fourth main component of Darwin's theory of natural selection is variation. At the time, he couldn't explain why some organisms look different, or organisms of the same species, why they would have different characteristics. But now we understand that a little bit more, and that leads us to the three types of natural selection. The first type of natural selection is what we call stabilizing. So in this diagram, you have a normal, what we call bell-shaped curve. And so in a population, you expect to find some on one end, some organisms in the middle, and some on the other end. And along here, we could be talking about hair color, shape of an organism, color of an organism. It just depends on which trait you're looking at. So with stabilizing selection, the average trait is favored in a population. Disruptive selection, that's a selection that will favor one of the extremes. So if we're looking at body color, for example, you won't find as many individuals in the middle, rather you'll find more individuals on both extremes. And disruptive natural selection can lead to something called speciation. And that's a formation of a new species. The last type of natural selection is directional selection. And this is when the frequency will shift to one of those extremes. So again, talking about body color, for whatever reason, there was a reason to shift to this color, and so the population over time changed to one extreme. And some examples of natural selection would be peppered moths during the Industrial Revolution, and insecticide resistance or antibiotic resistance.